even the video ones. We are recording. I think there's only one thing really to do.
Let's get it on.
Get it on.
It must be quite apparent by this time to any thinking individual that the people of our country and people of other countries all over the world are coming to face a moment of grave decision. A time when we will choose the course of our future.
Oklahoma, Texas, New York, Philadelphia, around the world, it's gonna be a big nut bust.
The Millennial Media Offensive podcast is now live.
That is correct. It is October 14th, 2025. You're listening to MMO number 190. And from the great city and state of St. Louis, Missouri, I'm Dan Gehring.
And from America's South Coast, where we've got peace, people, I'm John G. Dew.
It's war in the streets and war in the Middle East. Instead of war on poverty, they've got a war on drugs so the police can bother me. That was Tupac Shakur. It doesn't really apply for what we're talking about today, but still a good line.
No?
Nonetheless.
Yeah, on today's hip-hop pod,
That's right. Where we cover...
we'll be talking about relatively unknown artist Tupac Shakur.
Yes, 35 years after his prime, it is time to start talking about him. No, but yes, peace in the Middle East. That is exciting.
Yes, peace.
How about Mississippi? You guys have peace?
No, of course not.
Yeah, neither here. I got a crazy crime report from St. Louis a little later about a certain new attack that's scaring mothers and everybody.
Well, it's funny that, and we will. Consider this a tease. I don't want to talk about this right off the bat, but it's funny that you brought a local crime story because local crime made me resurrect one of the fan favorite segments of our show. This Week in Party Shootings is back.
Oh boy! Right off the rip, or you're teasing it? You're teasing it. That's
No, it's here.
This week
we're not doing it now, yes, but I have the clip. I have
good.
This Week in Party Shootings for this show.
It's been
that's why I said it's interesting that you brought a local crime clip.
Well, yeah. Wait, I mean, this is great, folks. If you are newer on the offensive or you haven't heard, John used to make a compilation of all the shootings that took place at parties, and I don't think you've done that for 100
strictly
episodes.
for that week.
Exactly.
Those are the rules are it has to be a shooting at a party within the last 7 days. No clips about indictments or trial updates. It has to be breaking news clips about shootings at parties within the last 7 days. And I think the effect of that was just the sheer volume that you can put together in a compilation for 1 week. I think that was what really had the effect on people. But yeah, it's back. It's back. I've got the first This Week in Party Shootings clip for tonight's show since maybe a year.
Yeah, I know. It's been at least I would say 50 episodes since we've had it, which would be about a year. So that makes perfect sense.
I did it for a while, and when you're doing that week after week, it gets a little depressing.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
So I gave it a rest, and we're resurrecting it.
There was
So
well, I'll just quickly. There's a story out of St. Louis today, and this isn't my clip, but like a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, and I think another 12-year-old were all busted by St. Louis PD for smoking weed outside of a business, and they all had guns on them. And I was looking at the photo, and it was 2 Glocks, of course, the extended magazine, but really old, shitty Glocks. The coating on a lot of the slides was worn off, and then one really nice Glock with like flat dark earth coloring and whatnot. And I'm like, damn, that's a nice gun. And I'm reading the story, and one of them was stolen. and everything made sense all of a sudden. But yes, 12-year-olds and 11-year-olds or 13-year-olds are running around with 33 round capacity Glocks in the city of St. Louis. So, one of the reasons to stay stacked.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay stacked and stay jacked. Or
Right.
get whacked.
Or get whacked. How are you doing, John?
I'm good. Had the day off Monday, seeing as the kind of work that I'm in. The office was closed, so I was on the phone for most of the day for my other two jobs, basically, which I guess the podcast makes 4 things. I really took that whole multiple sources of income seriously whenever I heard someone say that on the internet when I was young. And here I am. You get a day off, well, here, spend it on the phone.
And Columbus Day, of the Italian Pride National Day that the left tries to get you. When people are talking about, and I applaud you for your multiple sources of income. I'm also interested in that realm and have taken steps towards it. But on Columbus Day, the Italian Pride Day, where I was really thinking about it the other day, people that are ashamed of Columbus or call him a colonizer and all this stuff. These people hate America, right? This man found America. There are people living here when he found it, but he opened it up for the Europeans that now settle this land in the great majority today. And all of this talk, it is really all anti-American leftism, and it's all tied together deep down. I had a good, me and my 25% Italian. 25% of me was proud yesterday. And the 75% of me was just, disgusted with the white man and the immoral actions of Christopher Columbus. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's all interconnected. If you think Columbus is a problem, you hate America. At the root cause of where everything's going. The No Kings protests are spiking up again. There's going to be a big one Saturday. And I looked at a recorded call of their kickoff call that they did on September 18th. I think that was about a month ago. And they're talking about trans people, and they're talking about, BLM and the Ezra Klein, or Ezra something Levin. He's the organizer of it. He's going on and on about how Trump's attacking black leadership and black political power in this country. And it's just like everything that they believe in is all interconnected and woven together to push one socialist agenda forward. And I know you can hear this kind of content on Glenn Beck and whatnot, but it really is true. It's like insane. All of it ties together.
So I take it you're a fan of Columbus.
Yes, I love Columbus. They when I was living in St. Louis proper, there was a park called Tower Grove Park, and outside of it was a statue of Columbus that was funded by the Italian immigrants that lived there at the time over pride of their culture and pride of their new country. It was the merging of their old country of Italy with their new country, America, and they funded and they bought the statue. And during the summer of riots of George Floyd, they tore it down with absolutely no reparations towards the Italian community whatsoever.
Oh, but of course not.
No. So, it's...
Well, maybe the Italians should just get good at ball, and then they could participate in the reparations that are the NIL money.
That's good. I think the person that's making the most out of NIL is actually no longer in college. It's like Livy Dunn or something? Didn't she was like one of the first athletes. You know who Livy Dunn is?
Yes.
Yeah, she cute blonde girl that went to Louisiana. I think she was like a gymnast or something. And she just raked it in. Like I think it was her sophomore year or something when it started to kick off. And she was raking in the dough before students weren't able to make money off of their college and name or whatever. But now it's actively pursued by colleges.
Oh, yes. There are There are funds and there are grown adult humans in America that send donations of their hard-earned money to funds that are specifically made to pay athletes in college. Not a general fund for the university in its pursuit of higher education. No. To pay athletes to come to their college.
I mean, Alabama's been doing that for years.
Ha! Yes, they have. You won't find any objection from me there.
We're a new SEC state, Missouri, relatively new, Missouri, that is. And we just lost to Alabama on Saturday by about 3 points, so.
Yeah, that was a closer game than I thought.
Yep.
I thought it was going to be. But anyway, not a sports cast.
No.
Sports pod.
We oftentimes rally against I think it was just last week we were talking about the pacification of sports. So it's funny.
They've been paid off by big sport.
Right. Right, indeed. All right, well, before we get too weird, where do you want to start this thing?
I think the logical starting place for this week's news coverage, Tuesday is News Day after all, is Israel.
All right.
Israel. And I've got a News Nation clip from it's a report from Israel, and it's from News Nation, and it's about the hostages being released.
All righty.
There's a saying that they have on the ground here in Israel. October 7th may have happened more than 2 years ago, but October 8th has not arrived. But for the first time in 2 years, the dawn of October 8th and its beating rays can be seen on the horizon, because at this hour, Hamas does not hold a single living Israeli hostage. There's more work to be done in order to bring all of the deceased back. But for these hostage families who've waited 2 years for this moment, seeing it come close only to fizzle time and time again, it is the moment that they have longed for, prayed for, and it is finally upon them now. But the president has made clear that despite this monumental instance here, in which you have had this phase one going off without a hitch to this point here in the Middle East, there is still more work to be done.
After years of suffering and bloodshed, the war in Gaza is over. The rebuilding begins. The rebuilding is maybe going to be the easiest part. I think we've done a lot of the hardest part, because the rest comes together. We all know how to rebuild, and we know how to build better than anybody in the world.
In the short term, President Trump wants to see more aid going into the Gaza Strip. Rebuilding Gaza itself is a top priority. And then there's the big picture that the president has mentioned here, standing shoulder to shoulder with all those world leaders, brokering widespread peace here in the region, opening up the Abraham Accords, and expanding diplomatic ties for Israel. That's the big picture he is seeking, and that's the vision that he has for this region. In Tel Aviv, Robert Sherman, News Nation.
I've noticed that this reporter and Netanyahu, they say Abraham.
Well, it's like when a newscaster comes across a Mexican name, they'll be and the suspect, Antonio Magan Gulletes, is wanted for multiple stabbings.
I mean, we just need everybody to go ahead, and when they're reading quotes, just do your best accent. You don't have to just do the name. Names, we don't need to specifically do the accent when we do names. You can do quotes. It's fine.
What do you mean quotes?
Oh, we get Abraham instead of Abraham from an American news reporter. And then to your point, where when it's a Mexican name, they say it differently than their usual presentation. We just need full quote. Go ahead and do full quotes too.
At the local bar, a brawl broke out between Steve Michaels and Seamus O'Reilly. That would be something. I think that we should do it for all cultures, everywhere.
Yes.
It'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, you I think it would bring new viewership into the news media.
I think so too. I think it would also, I think the best way to defeat something dumb is to mock it out of existence. And that's a step forward. That's one of the steps. Offensive accents for everyone.
I have a couple of CNN clips to follow that one up. This one is titled World Leaders. This is Nick Robinson on CNN.
Nick Robertson, you're in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, for us, and that is, of course, where this deal was signed. We still haven't seen the exact contents of what it is. Can you walk through what we do know and underscore the significance of this moment?
Yeah, it is a significant moment, and President Trump was surrounded when he was signing this document by the mediators, by the President of Turkey, President of Egypt, the Emir of Qatar. They were all there signing this document, but as you rightly say, we don't know what was in that document. We don't know how the momentum and the spirit of this sort of hugely successful day of hostage release, prisoner release, ceasefire in place, how this translates going forward. Everyone said, let's look at the momentum here from phase one and push that into phase two. But you looked at the faces of some of the leaders standing behind President Trump while he was there giving his speech. You had the Greek Prime Minister, Mitsotakis. You had Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister. Next to him, you had Shehbaz Sharif, the Pakistani Prime Minister. Next to him, Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister. Next to him, Mark Carney. All these leaders had gone there to look for that momentum and to get some answers about how the situation moves forward.
Wow, it's a lot of leaders.
So you get an idea. Yeah, you get an idea of what this pomp and circumstance was like.
Yep.
And of course, we've got to talk about some of the more thorny issues that have to be resolved, because if there were no thorny issues, this would have been resolved a long time ago, but this is just a ball of thorny issues, this whole Israel and Gaza peace.
So thorny.
President Trump spoke about the money coming from some of the sort of Gulf partners and some of those others there to pay for the rebuilding. But what he didn't get into is the thorny issue of things like the International Stabilization Force. How many troops? It was talked about maybe 20 or 40,000, but it's unclear which countries they come from, what their mandate will be. Will they have the support and backing of the UN? All of these questions. And our Becky Anderson sat down with Egypt's foreign minister before the summit began, and he said, look, one of the key issues for us is that there are actually US troops inside of Gaza. This is how he explained it.
We need American boots on the ground, the troops in order.
In Gaza?
Yeah, why not? I mean, and that's very important in order to...
Have you got a commitment from Donald Trump for American boots on the ground in Gaza?
We are in this process. We are talking, and also, of course, we have to identify the nature of these forces. Is it peace enforcing or peacekeeping?
And that's the big question here, peace enforcing or peacekeeping? What are their rules of engagement? If they see someone with a gun, are they able to shoot at them? Are they only able to shoot if they're shot at, or do they just have to run and hide if they're shot at? And remember, the onus is on that international stabilizing force to disarm Hamas. Hamas doesn't want to disarm. We didn't get any sense of the detail of that today, and that was clearly a core issue for the host nation here. That's what the foreign minister said. What are the rules of engagement going to be for these troops? A prime question for any country sending its young soldiers potentially into harm's way, Casey.
Rules of engagement, sir. Run and hide.
Yes. Stand here.
With a gun. But if you get shot at, run away and hide.
This is the kind of reporting that flows downstream of being unable to ask important questions when you're talking to your sources. The question to that representative should have been, can you explain the difference between peace enforcing and peacekeeping? Because that sounds like a sound bite that sounds like a fine sound bite to say that, but what does that mean? And then when they stammered for 5 minutes, you could then report on how you don't know anything about the details, and seemingly the people involved in negotiations aren't sure about the details either. But instead, you just say, well, that's a person in authority, and, they are two different words, so they must mean something different, I guess. We're just going to report what we can. So I would ask you, Dan, what in your mind is the difference between peace enforcing and peacekeeping?
I think peacekeeping is like strongly, stern. Hey, IDF, you can't kill those Palestinian children. Please stop. And then peace enforcing is, hey, IDF guy, I'm going to shoot you now.
No. You're thinking about this completely wrong. The IDF aren't the ones breaking the peace, Dan. You're thinking, when you're thinking about this, you're either peace enforcing or peacekeeping in relation to the Palestinian women and children that haven't been killed.
Hey, Palestinian child, put down that piece of rubble. Don't throw it.
No, there are men still left in Gaza. The munitions that were dropped don't differentiate between women and children and men. So obviously, statistically, there are men left. But this is an incredibly it's bad reporting to not ask your source to differentiate what that means.
Well,
I've never heard peace enforcing,
and the way
peace enforcing means domination. It means occupation.
Well, the way he said it was like it was a common phrase that they've been using for years. Remember, everyone was unequivocally renouncing things or denouncing things. That was the term, unequivocally condemn. They kept using it. But like this peace enforcing versus peacekeeping, yeah, it is one of those semantic things that, eventually Wired or Vox will do a video on of this is what this means.
Yeah, I mean, peace enforcing is occupation.
Right.
And when you're occupying somewhere, you are rolling around in equipment that can't be trifled with. So are we going to see an international army that has the capabilities to obliterate anything that moves 400 yards away at a moment's notice? Or are we going to see some poor blue helmets from even poorer African countries standing in the rubble in Gaza being picked off by Gaza snipers?
Probably. I would say the latter, the blue helmets. The UN has been bitching and moaning ever since this peace agreement went into play, saying there's nothing but there's no clarity in it. It's bad, Israel can still occupy Gaza. I got some clips from the UN guy talking about it, and it's like overlooking the fact that there's temporary peace. I don't think.
Well, that's the thing. This is one of those things where you can really tell. It's a mask off moment for anyone reporting on this, whether that be people who call themselves reporters for a living, or politicians who are just mouthpieces, or your third-level commentators and podcasters. If you say it's good, if you say it's a good deal, or if you say it's a bad deal, you're pandering because you don't know. We don't know if it's a good or a bad deal. It's good that the fighting is stopping. It's good that people, in theory, aren't going to die for a little while. That's good, regardless. But to comment on the deal itself is pandering fundamentally because we don't know anything about the deal.
Right. I think I have to come out and say I was wrong because you were going through Trump's 20-point peace plan last week, or the proposed 20-point peace plan, which might even be different now. And I was like, there's no way Israel goes for it, but they went for it.
Yeah, and that's why I think they're being really close to the chest. They're keeping this close to their chest because all of this pomp and circumstance was in Israel. I mean, this was basically a victory celebration in Israel. You had Miriam Adelson there with 3 sets of fake teeth in, smiling every single one. And Trump was there touting it. All these world leaders are there. You got cameras and news reports coming out of there about how great this is. And excuse me for being skeptical, but I think Israel got everything they wanted. Now, I'm not saying that means it's a bad deal, but you're basically forcing a peace. And maybe that's our answer to peace enforcing. Maybe Israel said, okay, yeah, we'll leave, but we need an international force to basically do what we were doing, maybe just a little less cold-bloodedly. And maybe that's the deal. Maybe that's all of the deal. And then the rest of it is memorandums of understanding about funding for construction.
Preventing the uprising of another Hamas. You know, and I was thinking about how weak it is that, Hamas can no longer be armed or a thing. I was like, have you heard of all of the other various Islamic terrorist groups around the country? They have no problem coming up with a new name.
No, not at all. Not at all. And they'll have no problem getting weapons. And something struck me, and I didn't clip it because I didn't think it's kind of a throwaway, but it struck me nonetheless. They did a story, and CNN did a piece in this. It's in this story, and it's a very short, 15 seconds, where they're talking about all of the Israeli hostages coming back, and they have video footage of them reuniting with their families. Everybody's crying. It's a beautiful moment, all this. Then they do 15 seconds on the buses transporting thousands of Palestinians back to Gaza. And the one story they chose to highlight was a Palestinian man who didn't know until he arrived back in Gaza that his wife and daughters had been killed in an airstrike. And my immediate thought is, you will never prevent a militia from rising back up among these people.
I mean, I don't think anybody that has a rational thought process thinks that this is going to hold forever. You know, that now there's peace in the Middle East forever. Yeah, the people that
unless it's occupied by an international force forever.
Maybe. I mean, that's probably the plan for Israel now. I hope this means that we no longer have to continue to pay them for their defense if we're going to have people that are going to be there on the ground. I don't know. That's probably been worked into the deal as well. But yeah, no, there's no way. There's a guy that I saw, and I don't know if this is true, but he was limping when he was being released or made it back to Palestine, and they're claiming that he was being tortured up until the hour that he was released. You know, I could easily
and I don't doubt
propaganda. But yeah, there's no. I saw the exact same coverage you did too of all the Israelis crying and hugging and embracing, and then the full Greyhound bus loads of Palestinians being brought back to what is effectively a rubbleized parking lot.
Yeah, and you know that my assessment of that, how you'll never stop another uprising among these people, it comes from a very personal place of putting myself in that man's shoes. If I had been in prison,
sandals.
Sure. If I had been imprisoned in Louisiana and there was a peace deal and I get back on a Greyhound bus from Louisiana to find everything that I had rubbleized and my family dead, I'm looking for a weapon as soon as humanly possible, and I'm going to go kill as many people in Louisiana as I can.
Well, I got a couple of friends there. I'll give them a heads up. But if you need to borrow some, if your weapons were rebelized,
I realize that taken in isolation could sound pretty bad.
Right.
But I do not intend to harm anyone that has or currently lives in Louisiana. That was an analogy.
Unless they wrong you in some respect, I would say.
But is that a fair sentiment to have? I mean, I know it's definitely not the Christian sentiment to have, but
it's the entire origin story of ISIS.
Yes.
So, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So, you said you have clips on Israel. Do you want to finish mine out and then go into yours?
Yeah, mine are just a UN guy bemoaning the deal.
Okay, well, we're going to skip one of these because it's valueless. But the next one is Vance on Fox, and this one's titled "American Boots on the Ground," and he's going to address the reporting, the speculation that there are going to be American boots on the ground in Gaza as part of this peacekeeping force.
What are America's commitments post this war, Vice President Vance? I know that in the past, President Trump has talked a lot about developing the Gaza Strip. What are the commitments in place right now as far as America and the Gaza Strip?
Well, the only major commitment that we've made is that we're going to monitor this peace. And we're sort of we're the one party, the President of the United States in particular is the one person that everybody really trusts. And so the Gulf Arab states and the Israelis, they need a sort of, an independent mediator to say whether the terms of the ceasefire are holding, to ensure that both the people in Gaza, but also the Israelis are actually living up to the terms of the deal. We're confident that's going to happen, but it's going to require some monitoring. I've seen some reporting, Maria, that suggests that you're going to have American boots on the ground in Gaza. That is not true. That is not the president's intention. What we are is going to use the troops that we already have at Central Command, and we've had these troops for many, many years. They're going to make sure that everybody's actually keeping up their terms of the deal. Meanwhile, and this is another great diplomatic breakthrough, Maria, is you've got Muslim-majority nations from all over the world, both the Arab nations, but also in Southeast Asia, like Indonesia. They're offering to put troops on the ground to ensure that Gaza is properly policed, that there's public safety. And of course, the Gulf Arab states, it's a beautiful part of the world. They want to rebuild Gaza so that everybody who lives there can have a safe and prosperous life. We're not there yet, but that's the sort of thing that peace unlocks, is that incredible prosperity that comes along with a real, durable, and lasting peace deal.
I'm sorry. When I said poor Africans, I meant poor Indonesians.
Right. Oh, man.
And I think this is crap, too, because there was a hot mic moment between the president of Indonesia and Donald Trump at this summit, this peace conference, or whatever you want to call it. And the president of Indonesia basically said, help. We need help. We need help. We're in a bad neighborhood, and please help. So I don't think Indonesia is going, unless it's part of a deal that the U.S. gives Indonesia something other than what we're already giving in exchange for them sending some poor volunteers to Gaza. But I think we're really missing the best opportunity to make the most of this situation, and it's an indictment to the critical thinking ability of the administration. With all of the Mexicans that we're deporting, we could have Gaza rebuilt in 4 weeks.
You're not wrong. They are very fast and hardworking individuals. I feel like there would be some. I think MSNBC would probably have something to say about that. But you wouldn't find a lot of resistance.
Nobody would hear it.
That's true. So you're going to hear some MSNBC today. I got a clip.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay. Last one from me. This is Maria Bartiromo asking Vance about our economic commitment.
Perfect.
So beyond that, there's no further economic commitment from America to the region.
Well, I think that we're going to work with our Gulf Arab states. Most of the money is going to come from our Gulf Arab friends, and I'm sure some will come from the Israelis. This is actually not going to require many resources from the United States of America. What it will require is our constant supervision and our diplomatic engagement. That's what we're bringing to the table, but the resources are mainly going to come from the Gulf Arab states.
Stripcom. That's what it's going to be. You heard of CENTCOM, you heard of AFRICOM, now it's Stripcom.
Oh, Gaza Stripcom?
Yeah.
I like Medcom, Mediterranean.
Boots on the Goyim.
You would think, do the Jews have a specific name for Palestinians? A derogatory name like Goyim?
I don't know.
I'm not aware of one either. I have to think, even if it's contemporary, that they do.
Something. It's got to be something awful. Probably, I imagine it's a lot like Wisconsin and Illinois. We call people from Illinois fibs, which when they ask, stands for friendly Illinois buddies, but it's got a different connotation when you're in the Wisconsin club.
Arabush means little Arab or dirty Arab.
Dirty Arab?
Mm-hmm.
Could be a cute little
Fakistinians.
Fakistinians. Oh, it's like when India and Pakistan were spatting. The main news, the government-run news in India was calling Pakistan terroristan.
Yeah.
Great. You're getting a little crackly on me. Put a marker down here. John will be right back, everybody. Every now and then this happens.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
Well, I'm not sorry. I didn't do anything. Is that better?
Yeah. Yep.
Apparently, the equivalent of the N-word for a Palestinian is cushy.
Cushy.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have a translation?
Yeah, I mean, do you want me to say it?
Yes.
Nah. I'll wait till it's more impactful to say it.
Racial
Okay, so that applies to the dark-skinned Palestinians as a racial insult. You also have garbaz, which means trash or garbage.
Hey, I speak Israeli.
And then haluk or halukum means pale or white ones, which is a jab at Palestinians claiming European-like victimhood. And what is that? European-like victimhood? When did the what? I like cushy.
Cushy?
Yeah, cushy.
Next time
Garbaz is good, but that just sounds Italian.
Next time I go to the gas station, I'm going to walk in and say, "What's up, my cushy?" and see how they react.
My cushy. Maybe you should say Kusha.
Kusha?
Yeah, with the A.
Oh yes, you don't want to have the hard I. You gotta
right. No hard I.
That's right. Oh, perfect. I love it. Yeah. So with this whole thing, the UN, and this is a DW clip. The UN, the DW, they got to downplay a little bit. So that's exactly what it is. And I forgot what I named my my folder, and I just remembered. Merry Halloween, the war is over. Dumb name. I don't know. I was low on caffeine when I came up with it. But here's a DW clip about the UN's role in this ordeal and how it's wanton.
Let's talk now about the role of the United Nations. We are joined by Ben Saul. He is the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the promotion and protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms while countering terrorism. Welcome to the program, and thank you so much for joining us on DW. We have heard UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres welcoming the agreement to secure a ceasefire. He has praised the U.S. and mediators for, quote, desperately needed breakthrough. How do you see the role of the UN now moving forward?
Should have DS this lady.
So up until now, the UN has been totally marginalized in the formulation of this plan, and that's partly because the United States has threatened to veto every action that the Security Council has tried to take to resolve this conflict over the last 2 years. So this is unilateralism by the US. The problem is that that means that the plan lacks a certain level of legitimacy that United Nations multilateralism can bring to peacemaking and peace building. There's no role really for the UN envisaged, except for some involvement in the supervision of humanitarian relief. There's no role in governance or the peace and security mission. It's not clear if the plan will be endorsed by the Security Council and have that kind of authorization either. It's not an international United Nations transitional administration like we saw in Kosovo or East Timor, and there's no role for the UN in disarmament or economic reconstruction. So I hope that the vagueness of the plan
Wait a
in
minute.
future
Stop it for a
will
second.
allow...
Because I know your clip is probably 6 minutes long.
No.
I love that he uses the shining example of success that is Kosovo.
Yes. The UN, you know, we would have loved to have bombed Gaza for 70 days. So that would have been great. Would have been the solution. I'm sure Israel would have been okay with that. I also like the fact that he used disarmament in there. You know, if I'm Trump,
disarmament.
I'm like, go on, UN. Go on in there. Ask Hamas for their guns nicely. You're up. Oh.
No, do a buyback. It'll be fine.
A gun buyback?
Yeah.
That would be something. Hey, if you want food, you got to give up the AK-47. Although if you have an AK-47, your food supply is endless. Just a solid tip if you ever find yourself with an AK-47 and a global collapse of world governments.
Are you promoting cannibalism?
No, I'm promoting taking stuff with your force.
That the vagueness of the plan in future will allow opportunities for the UN to become involved to ensure that the plan is seen as more legitimate by more actors.
So effectively, the UN is all upset because they had no say in this deal, even though they had been trying for years to resolve it, but could never come up with anything.
Hey, we're useless.
Pretty much. I love how Trump goes to the UN, tells them that to their face, and then makes this peace deal. It's wonderful. It was actually a pep talk to the individual UN member nations. Like, fix your countries. The West is dying, is effectively what his message was. But there's no talk of justice in this deal. So this is probably why the UN couldn't do anything.
And how about the question, in addition to what you've mentioned there, how about the question of accountability? Because both Hamas and Israel have faced serious accusations of war crimes and human rights violations. What can the UN do to make sure that both sides are held accountable?
It's pretty shocking, actually, that this 20-point plan, which is a lot of points, says absolutely nothing about justice and accountability for the gross violations of international humanitarian law and international criminal law that have occurred throughout this conflict for the last 2 years, and more broadly in the Palestine dispute.
What do you got?
This is incredibly spot on for the UN. His criticism is that the 20-point plan doesn't bloviate about accountability and justice.
Yep. It it doesn't do the good white liberal thing.
Right, exactly.
I've been thinking a lot about a lot of stuff lately. I was thinking about the movie Get Out. Have you seen the movie Get Out?
No.
It's pretty much a commentary on white liberals. You know, hey, I'm an Obama guy. There's seriously a line in there where this guy who, and you know, I won't ruin the movie for people that haven't seen it, but he says, I voted for Obama, trying to connect with a black guy, sounding like every white liberal you ever know. But yeah, but that's effectively the concern here is it doesn't have anything about social justice. We can't confirm that any of that funding is going to trans studies for young Palestinian children. This is no good.
Over the last at least 60 years, we know that if you don't deal with the past through a truth-telling and transitional justice process,
right there.
That's one of the factors that can lead to a resumption of violent conflict. Peace without justice is not a lasting peace. The International Criminal Court has a role to play. The International Court of Justice has a role to play. But also all governments worldwide have to bring pressure to bear through the United Nations, through the General Assembly and the Security Council and the Human Rights Council to ensure that Israel and Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups face justice for the war crimes and crimes against humanity and even alleged genocide that has occurred in this conflict.
Ben Saul, UN Special Rapporteur, thank you so much for
pick.
joining us to share that perspective.
I've got a bone to pick with my 6th grade teacher.
Yep.
Because she told me that it was not a lucrative path to be a clown for a living.
And here this guy's on the news, and we're just doing a lowly podcast.
I know.
But yeah, I love the truth telling. It's I mean, the prediction that it's not going to be a lasting peace, that's the easiest call. If there's a polymarket odds of will Israel and the Palestinian people ever clash again, you know, I don't care how long it takes. That's the best retirement plan you got. You put all your money on yes for that one, and you'll hit big.
Yeah. Hammer it, as they say in the business.
That's right. Full send. I don't know. It's funny to me that they wait till the peace deal is done, and now it's like, oh, we've got to. I don't like the looks of this. It was like if you had enacted everything you wanted. He mentioned specifically the ICC. The ICC, of course, is a clown organization that pops up on our show at least once a month. That wants to arrest
International Criminal Court.
Yeah, the International Criminal Court that wants to arrest Netanyahu. You couldn't, if you wanted a deal between Israel and Palestine, you can't put that on the table. That all parties will answer to the ICC.
Deal making is beyond their intellect.
Right. What do these people want? What do they want? And how can we achieve the goal of people not dying, which has always been Trump's stated goal? Say what you will about the guy. He's been consistent on that fact. I want this dying to stop.
And that appears to be achieved thus far.
Yep.
The UN at its core is an example of what happens when you give academics real-world tasks and influence. Academics belong in academia, separate from the rest of us. They should not have any influence over anything that happens in the real world. And when they get influence over things that happen in the real world, you get things like no justice, no peace. And that concept even being considered when a peace deal is more necessary than it has been in the last, I don't know, things have been pretty hot around the world. But when a peace deal is necessary and any rational human would want the killing to stop, you get these jackasses talking about social justice instead of talking about concrete steps toward peace.
Right.
And that's why Trump is so successful in his deals, whether they're gilded with good PR or not. He is getting things done. He's making steps in a direction, good direction or not. Hard to argue with this one because seemingly people are going to stop dying. That's a good thing. It's crazy that I have to say that out loud. But when the academics are almost the anti-Trumps, well, they're literally the anti-Trumps in a lot of cases.
They're the globalists.
Because, well, it's not even about globalists or nationalists. You could have a nationalist academic who would fail in implementing any nationalist policy because they're an academic. They live in the theoretical realm. They're the ones responsible for these climate models that we've tried to use to form government policy. Academia is theory. It's not practical governance or practical policy. Academia should be taken as one piece of a much larger puzzle by leaders who have real world experience and live in the real world. Now that I'm thinking about this, I would say that most of our modern policy problems can most likely be traced back to a group or an individual academic or an organization out of academia.
They're ideologues. I mean,
yes, that's my point.
Karl Marx, rich parents, didn't do anything with his life, sat in a classroom for 20 years and came up with communism.
Yes, and it appeals to the same ilk.
Yeah.
You know,
that does sound nice.
If your goal is to be an academic in life, which I think there is a role and a place for academics as people, not academics as a concept, but academics as people in a functioning society. There's a role for that, but they shouldn't be given any power. They should have a marginal amount of influence because there are things to be learned and implemented from theory, but they shouldn't be given an outsized piece of influence. And to bring it back around to the original point, the UN is an example of what happens when you give academics outsized influence. They don't get anything done, and they just bloviate all over you all day long. And worse than that, they really, truly believe they're better than you.
No, they're educated, you see.
Right. Oh, yes.
I love it's the group. I guess the group that I've noticed that says it the most is black women. Like, I'm an educated black woman. They'll say that, and they'll even have T-shirts like "There's nothing more dangerous than an educated black woman." And then you hear them talk, and it's like the worst takes you ever heard in your life. People that have to tell you how smart they are usually the people that are dumb. New rule.
Yes, I don't know the exact quote. It's not of my making, but I've said it before on here. There are a lot of people who are educated far beyond their intelligence.
Good quote. I like it. John G. Dew, 2025. Lock it in.
Practical man.
Practical man. Oh.
Well, is that all you had for Israel?
That's all I have for Israel.
Well, on a tangential note, I've got a clip about this Qatari airbase facility debacle. I don't know if you heard anything about it over the last week.
Rumblings, yes.
Well, the reporting, and it caused some backlash within MAGA, but the reporting was that we were going to allow Qatar to build a whole air base in Utah.
Oh, yeah. I did hear about this. I thought it was kind of ridiculous headline, so I didn't even look into it. But is that actually what's going to happen?
No, of course not. I've got Vance clarifying on Fox, and then I've got an article linked in the show notes from Newsweek.
Okay, is this in the Israel folder?
Mideast, I'm sorry.
That would make sense. Perfect.
What is the function of this Qatar facility? People are wondering, is this an air base? What is Qatar going to be developing in Idaho?
Idaho. Not
Yeah,
Utah.
I saw some reporting about this, Maria. I actually talked to the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, this morning. This is largely a fake story. We continue to have with countries that we work with. We have relationships where, sometimes their pilots work on our bases, sometimes that we train together, sometimes we work together in other ways. The reporting that somehow there is going to be a Qatari base on United States soil, that's just not true. We are continuing to work with a number of our Arab friends to ensure that we are able to enforce this peace, but we're not going to let a foreign country have an actual base on American soil. So there was a bit of misreporting on that, as there often is, as you know, Maria.
Plus, Maria, we picked Idaho because there aren't any tall buildings that can get knocked over.
Can't be practicing any missions involving towers.
That's right.
Yes, so this is they're building a facility at the Mountain Home Air Base,
and it just is.
Which, if you really looked into it, I would almost guarantee that several nations, especially allied nations or subject nations, have facilities at our air bases.
Oh, I know that. I actually know that for a fact. I had a friend who I'm not going to name because people are weird, but he worked for a company, a defense company, and there were nationals in and out all the time. Saudis, Qataris, various people coming and going and looking at stuff, cooperating with stuff, probably paying for part of its development as well, a co-development.
Probably.
Like the is it the F-17 or the F, whatever the successor to the F-16 is. Turkey was supposed to be
18, I believe.
The F-18. For some reason, I think 35 is in my head. Oh. F-35. Maybe I'm just... Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about either. You got the 14, 15, 16, and FA-18.
I'm a gun guy. I'm not a plane guy. Oh, well, that's interesting. The Qatari base. The Mideast. Well, we're in the Mideast. There was a brief spat. Did you see that this week?
Oh, I heard something about this, but I didn't really look into it. Something to do with Afghanistan and the Pakis.
That's right. That's right. Pakistan and Afghanistan, situated between Iran and India, for those listeners at home not available to...
Let me ask you to look again at a map.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a tiff, and John, you're not allowed to make fun of the boots on the ground reporter's voice. I'm just saying that right now.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. You can make fun of it. I had to listen to it 3 times because I was laughing so hard. So here's a little rundown from Al Jazeera, and then a boots on the ground fella to let you know what's going on in between Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Taliban and Pakistani forces have traded fire across the Afghan border, with Taliban officials saying their forces captured 3 Pakistani military outposts. The Taliban said the attack represents a retaliation for what it calls a violation of its sovereignty on Thursday, with airstrikes on the capital, Kabul. Pakistan has long accused Afghanistan of harboring armed groups that carry out attacks inside its territory. Islamabad also said its forces destroyed Taliban outposts. Afghanistan's foreign minister said on Friday relations with his country must go through proper diplomatic channels.
No foreign military has ever been accepted by the people of Afghanistan, and they still don't accept it. This is our decision that Afghanistan is a free and independent country, and after this it will remain free and independent. If countries want to have relations with us, they can come to the diplomatic mission, but we don't accept them in military uniform.
Kamal Haider joins us live now from Islamabad with the latest on this developing story. Kamal, what is actually going on here?
Well, first of all, it's important to note that there's a little bit of a background here, and that is the fact that Pakistan had repeatedly, as you mentioned, told the Afghan side that they must restrain and prevent these cross-border attacks because under the Doha Agreement, the Afghan Taliban had assured that their soil would not be used in attacks on any country. So importantly, the Pakistanis told the Afghans that they must do something on several occasions. However, they did not get a firm reply. And in the past week, Pakistan lost almost 24 of its security forces personnel, including officers, in attacks carried out near the Afghan border. Pakistan had reports of air incursions into Afghan airspace. The Taliban said that they were launching a reprisal attack, after which the Pakistanis retaliated with heavy artillery fire as well. They're claiming that they have taken over 19 posts from the Afghans on that border area, and also the fact that this comes at a time when the Afghan Foreign Minister Muttaqi is in Delhi, which Pakistan views with suspicion because of its deteriorating relationship with India. Pakistan continues to maintain that these TTP fighters are directly getting support from the Indian intelligence.
See what I mean?
You're just a child, Dan.
I had to. So when I do these, I pull up these videos, and then I'm looking at maps while I'm listening, and I'm also looking at articles. When this guy came on, I had to flip back to the YouTube video to ensure that this was not a prank or a guy doing a funny accent. It was a serious report. This guy.
You must have just had that espresso. It was just hitting you, wasn't it?
It does. It's the way, everything about it's the lisp and the Indian accent combined that just makes it like, oh my God, dude, you guys gotta get a different reporter. Actually, I want more things to happen here, so this guy's on the news more. But it's Pakistan. It's Pakistan kind of being a punk. You know, they got into it with India a little bit. Now they're getting into it with Afghanistan. I don't know if somebody's spurring along Pakistan to destabilize the eastern front of Iran. It doesn't really seem likely. It really just seems like Pakistan can't get along with anyone.
Well, it's interesting because there was the New York Times, the New York Times did some reporting that was really just rehashing an old story from Iran this week. And it has to do with Iran being a destination for quote-unquote gender-affirming care, and also a producer of gender-affirming hormones.
Pakistan?
And this is... No, Iran.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, there are reports about this that go back 10, 12 years that you can find about Iran being a destination for gender-affirming care, which I really need to come up with a better name for because I don't want to use that terminology and give credence to the idea. But they're a destination for that kind of surgery, and they also produce hormones that are used to enable those kind of transitions. And they're one of the top places in the world for both of those things, Iran. Yeah, and this cropped back up in the New York Times this week.
Yeah, Iran is an interesting place. They have either a bus stop or a train station that they opened this past week called like the Virgin Mary train stop. And it's an ode to Jesus' mom, Mary. Iran.
Well, that's not as jarring because the Muslims believe that Jesus was a prophet.
Yeah. But his mother? I mean, half of Christianity doesn't even think much of Mary.
That's not true. We just don't worship her as a god. I'm sorry.
Intercession, my friend. Intercession.
I know. I just got to jab you when I can.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff out of Iran with the genital mutilation surgery. I guess that's not a great name
I was thinking
for
of
it.
like
But I'm working on it.
sexual psychosis medication, something like that.
Psychosurgery.
Psychosexual. I don't know.
Surgery.
You gotta have sex in there somewhere.
Psychosexual permanent alteration.
Oh man, somebody should do a cover of that one song by that one band, Psycho. You know what I'm talking about?
Psycho Killer.
No, different one.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
I'll think of it. It's one of those bands that wear masks, you know?
Oh, it's Slipknot.
Slipknot. Yeah, they have a song that has Psycho something. And they should do a cover of that with psychosexual hormone surgery.
Okay. Yeah, this is painted as Iran would rather you get surgery and be straight than be gay in their country, which I think is silly. I think this is just leaning into the things that could lead to the ultimate demise of your enemies. You know, the people of your nation, great Satan, want to be sterilized. We will help them with that.
This is Iran?
This is Iran, yes.
Jeez. Ugh. Everything I thought I knew about the world has now been called into question.
So, back to the original point of me bringing it up, it's interesting that you bring up that Pakistan is sort of being a punk and they're potentially trying to destabilize things around Iran when you have the New York Times reporting what is, I won't say well known about Iran, but it's not breaking news or revelation that Iran does this to some people at least. So I have to wonder, you know, is there any coordinated event or coordinated attack on Iran? And, you know, we'd be remiss not to mention the peace gala that just happened in Israel. You know, if the IDF doesn't have to focus on Gaza and Trump has told them that they've got to stop settling the West Bank, you got to send all those soldiers itching for Arab blood somewhere.
To Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan?
I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
You know, those are three countries. And that was one thing when I was looking at the Abraham Accords, countries that have formal relations, diplomatic relationships with Israel. Iran had one up until 1979, you know, the overthrowing of the Shah, of course, and the
Right.
rise of the...
Well, that was part of the government that we put into place.
Right.
Was it that it would be friendly to Israel.
Israel. Oh, sort of makes you think like that was the plan. So Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iran are the three now large land size Islamic countries that don't have any sort of diplomatic relations with Israel. Of course, Lebanon is one, and I've got an interesting update on Syria coming up. But everyone else, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, I think even like Qatar and Bahrain, all of them, and Egypt, of course, are somewhat friendly with Israel now, or at least on paper friendly with Israel now. And so those are three large, strong holdouts. Lebanon's a different story, of course, and I don't think anyone knows what's going on in Iraq these days.
Yeah, we're still trying to humanize the Syrian ISIS member, aren't we?
And you know who did a good job of it was 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes had a piece on al-Jilani, al-Ashara. Al-Jilani is his nom de guerre, which is was put into the Western media of saying, hey, guys, I know al-Jilani was a terrorist, but al-Ashara is a different guy. And they even hit on the fact that we were hitting on in this report, and I'll play it now because I think it fits well. But I got 5 clips, and it's about the 60-minute interview. And they hit on the fact that this guy was arrested and detained at U.S. military bases, ... and released. And they add a little bit more.
For 6 years.
For 6 years. And they add one more data point that might add a little bit of clarity to it. But you really start to see this grand scheme of the Middle East that we've had for years and years, and how seemingly random events are not that random, which I think has been the whole point of this podcast. So I'll play this little intro, and then we'll get into the interesting past of al-Shara, a.k.a. al-Jilani.
The deal brokered by the Trump administration between Israel and Hamas raises hope not only for an end to the war in Gaza, but for a broader transformation of the Middle East. And in some ways, that's been happening already. Israel's massive response in the 2 years since the October 7th terrorist attacks included decimating the powerful Iran-backed militia Hezbollah, which helped prop up the Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad, who bombed and used chemical weapons against his own people. With Hezbollah weakened, Syrian rebels set out on the road to Damascus to overthrow the brutal Assad regime. In December, the rebel commander, 42-year-old Ahmed al-Shara, proclaimed a new and free Syria, a stunning turn because the country's liberator had once been a member of al-Qaeda. Tonight, you'll hear his first U.S. television interview since becoming president. But before we sat down in the presidential palace, there was something he wanted us to see. This is Jobar, on the outskirts of Damascus.
On the outskirts.
300,000 people once lived here. Syria's new president, Ahmed al-Shara, brought us here last month.
It's shocking. There's just nothing left.
This war was cruel. It was a hard war. Every single room in any one of these buildings holds memories for those people who lived here.
This wasn't a mistake. This was a target.
Of course, all these were direct targets with one objective: to displace the people in these areas.
One objective.
I have a point to make. This is such good writing from 60 Minutes. They lay out this picture of al-Jilani's forces taking advantage of Israel attacking Hezbollah, right?
Mm-hmm.
As they're taking advantage to overthrow Bashar al-Assad, apparently it is now, not Bashar al-Assad.
Right. Al-Shara.
They, and this is the wording they used, on the road to Damascus.
Yeah, a play on a common used expression.
Yeah, but what happened on the road to Damascus?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I do know, actually. It's where Saul becomes Paul. He changes his name.
Yes. Yes.
That is funny. He's a good guy now. And you
right.
know what? You know what's even funnier about that, John, is this whole clip is about that. Is about addressing his past. No, this whole segment is about selling this guy. And he says the good boy stuff too. Good.
That is so good. I love that from 60 Minutes.
Yep. You know, it's a little wink nod. Hey, we're doing a service to this guy. But first we have to make him uncomfortable. We have to ask him these probing questions that he doesn't really answer, but we ask them.
Oh, well, they make him a little uncomfortable, but he's also a player in here. I really like his response to her first, when she's talking about Trump. I don't know if you got that one.
No.
Oh, well.
Did you watch this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it all. I thought you
Okay,
meant in
we'll
the
go-
last clip.
Carry on then.
All right, so now we're going to learn, for the first time ever, this podcast, we're going to learn about the interesting past of al-Shara.
Don't be facetious. People will believe you.
Right. We have been talking about this from years, or a year. Here we go.
When al-Shara's Islamist forces launched a surprise attack on the city of Aleppo in November 2024, they not only won, they kept going. By the time they got to Damascus, the capital, the dictator Bashar al-Assad had fled to Moscow. Al-Shara's forces ended 54 years of the Assad family's tyrannical rule in just 11 days. In January, leaders of the militias that overthrew the regime appointed al-Shara president of Syria. We spoke with him in the cavernous building that Bashar al-Assad once occupied. What was it like when you first entered this place?
Entering this palace wasn't a very positive experience. Much evil towards the Syrian people came out of this palace since it was built.
To understand his improbable path to the presidency, you have to go back about 20 years when al-Shara left an upper-middle-class life in Syria to join al-Qaeda in Iraq.
Oh.
He wouldn't go into details about what he did then, but he was arrested and spent 6 years in American and Iraqi prisons. Released in 2011, just as a popular uprising against Bashar al-Assad had begun, he started an al-Qaeda affiliate in Syria that staged suicide bombings and armed attacks against the Assad regime.
Interesting. Just as a popular uprising against al-Shara, or against Assad was happening, he gets released.
What a coincidence.
I know. His time was up, and it just so happens that there was this large uprising against this Syrian guy who we've been trying to get rid of for years.
Yeah.
We did not
prison,
take any external
new name,
action.
Change of heart.
That's right. Change of heart, change of direction. Only he didn't, because when you hear that, he starts a group, a terrorist group, designed to cause terror within Syria.
Assad had begun, he started an al-Qaeda affiliate in Syria that staged suicide bombings and armed attacks against the Assad regime.
That's what we had to do.
We did not take any external actions outside Syrian territory. We did not target anyone but the Syrian regime.
But the United States stated that many of the attacks killed, quote, innocent Syrian civilians, and designated al-Shara a global terrorist, putting him, with his nom de guerre, on this wanted poster and offering a $10 million reward to anyone who could help, quote, stop this terrorist.
Have you ever seen that poster? The wanted poster?
Yes, of course.
He's seen it. He's seen it, but that's not my name anymore. I'm a different guy. My beard's longer now.
I saw the light.
I saw the light. I was released from my terrorist charges in a U.S. military prison camp. And when I was released, I started a new suicide bombing terrorist camp. You know, my grandpa used to say, he used to walk to school, and he was a Depression-era guy, so he had to put cardboard in the bottom of his shoes when the soles wore out. And he's like, we just did what we had to do. That's what he had to do, is he had to form a terrorist group to blow up civilians in Syria to bring down Assad somehow. It's connected. But he's changed. He's changed, and 60 Minutes wants you to know that he has changed in this next clip.
When you met President Trump back in May, he described you as handsome, tough, and he said you had a strong past.
Have you any doubt about that?
I don't have any doubt about your strong past, but...
She just called him not handsome. Did you hear that?
Well, not really. She's just a little embarrassed. She's a little bashful.
I love it. She's like, did I just get flirted with by an Islamic terrorist?
It's because
cover your head.
Of that past that you were designated as a terrorist by the American government. There was that $10 million bounty on your head until just a few months ago.
It would have been a waste. It would have been money ill spent. We are talking about 25 years ago. I was 17 or 18 years old. The level of awareness that you have now is different from what it was 20 years ago.
He eventually broke ties with a former ally, the founder of the terror group ISIS, and in 2016 renounced his allegiance to al-Qaeda.
Oh, you renounced it.
Did you actually believe in those terror groups then? Or were they just a means to an end?
Listen to his answer.
If I had agreed with them, I would not have left them.
Many of the officials that I
If I agreed with them, I would not have left them, which is not an answer to her question. Her question is, were you using them to get ahead, or did you believe in the cause? Obviously, he believed in the cause, but the diplomatic answer is, well, I wouldn't have left them if I believed in them. So, a little bit of shystiness.
About you, describe you as a pragmatist. Other skeptics say that you change to meet what you need to be in that moment. And that's important to understand who you are and the direction you're taking Syria in. Are you saying that you are just a completely changed man?
I don't entirely agree with the description of pragmatist, because in Arabic, it has some negative connotations. The point is, let's look at what's happening now, regardless of what was said in the media. Today, we have really saved the people from the oppression that was being thrust on them by the criminal regime.
Oh, white lady, stop talking about my terrorist past. Look at what we've done today. I don't know. The whole thing's funny, but it is like she doesn't really press him on these questions, and I don't blame her either. If I was sitting in a Syrian palace with an ex-terrorist, I don't know if I'd really press him to answer the question.
I mean, it depends on how seriously you take your job as a journalist.
I think a hilarious prank for Trump to do, it would have been, while the bounty was in place on his head, said, congratulations, we'd like to meet you. And then Trump goes over there and shoots him and collects the $10 million bounty. It'd be wild.
See, I was thinking you have SEAL Team 6 break into his bedroom, and when he wakes up and panics because he thinks he's about to go back to prison, their guns, when they pull the trigger, just do the bang flag.
And then they all laugh about it and grab some.
Yeah, and then they all laugh about it. He goes back to sleep, and Trump calls him the next day and maybe makes a vague public reference to it in a few months.
That's right. We almost had you. We could have had you. But so what's interesting about this is he does end up saying the good boy lines. So he says,
oh, of course,
yeah, and
he is the good boy.
He's the good boy, and he wants to remain the good boy. And I think all Jelani,
and there are perks.
Well, I mean, absolutely there are perks. And I think he realizes I can live a good life and probably be a dictator. So he's, with the elections, he's got 5 years. So he's agreed that within 5 years they're going to have democratic elections, but things can arise. Ethnic tensions between different groups can arise within Syria and push that off. So he understands that if he follows, says the good boy words, says the good boy lines, does the good boy stuff, he can probably live a life of luxury for the rest of his days. And with this next clip, there's no doubt that he is indeed the good boy.
A remarkable development given the Russian Air Force helped Bashar al-Assad pummel places like Jobar.
There are millions of Syrians living in tents because things like this happen to them.
Because of Putin.
Bashar al-Assad and Vladimir Putin are living in Moscow. What justice do they face?
We will use all legal means possible to demand that Bashar al-Assad be brought to justice. However, engaging in a conflict with Russia right now would be too costly for Syria, nor would it be in the country's interest.
New sectarian violence at home has raised questions about whether al-Shabaab can control the fighters who helped bring him to power. On Syria's western coast in March, his security forces and allied militia were accused of participating in the massacre of 1,500 civilians, most of them members of the Alawite community that was loyal to Assad.
The United Nations does say that your security forces violated humanitarian law.
I believe this is an exaggerated description, and I believe that Syria is committed to prosecuting anyone who committed crimes against civilians, of any party or side.
But then again, this summer, during a fight between ethnic groups, al-Shaddad's security forces and Bedouin militia were accused of executing unarmed members of the minority Druze community in the southern city of Ceuta. A Syrian TV broadcaster was reading the news when Israel, which also has Druze citizens, bombed Syria's army headquarters and defense ministry. Al-Shaddad told us Israel also bombed the grounds of his presidential palace twice.
One time I wasn't there, but the other time I was in the palace close to the site that was bombed. To target the palace to convey a message, that's not a message, that's a declaration of war. But Syria doesn't want to engage in wars, and it doesn't want to be a threat to Israel or anyone else.
We are not a threat to you, Israel. We are not a threat. It is the puppy dog rolling over on its belly to the larger dog saying, we are not a threat.
Mm-hmm.
We are good. You can kill us if you want.
From the Moscow Times, I have an article. It's an opinion article, but it recognizes that Moscow and Syria still have, Moscow and Damascus, I should say, still have or are maintaining cordial relationships. The headline of this is the rapprochement between Russia and Syria is a temporary necessity.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there were hopes that Russia would lose its port access in Syria. And that is not happening. That's a bridge too far, I feel, at the moment. But this is a step in that direction. They have ports at Tartus and Latakia in Syria.
Yeah. I mean, he's balancing, what's funny about these strong guys in the Middle East, Tayyip Erdogan is the one that comes immediate to mind, is they're very good at walking the tightrope because they're effectively playing both sides. Al-Shara does not have the capacity for anyone to attack him, let alone to piss off Russia. Any sort of good relations with Russia he's got to keep. Meanwhile, him being a Western puppet, he's got to maintain that as well. So he finds himself in an interesting spot. But again, I think as long as you don't ruffle many feathers, you don't create this large, strong Syria with a large, strong Syrian army, you're going to be okay. Until, we want you out for some reason, and then there's an uprising, and they're beating you in the street with sandals.
Yep. Thanks for the good times.
That's right. Oh, it was great. The Dom Perignon tasted sweet, but it didn't overpower the getting beaten to death by sandals and having hot rods shoved up my butt. Yeah, just look at Libya, folks. Finally, the Israeli question, and I forget why I named it this, but I'll play it anyway.
Israel said publicly their intention was to protect a minority group there, the Druze. And the prime minister said he had to protect them because your forces did not.
This is a Syrian internal matter that should be resolved legally by Syrian authorities.
After Assad fell, Israel occupied strategic parts of its shared border with Syria and conducted air raids and land incursions, citing potential security threats. President Trump's special envoy to Syria, Tom Barrack, has been trying to broker an agreement that would ease tensions.
Your government has been discussing a security agreement with Israel. Does that, for you, mean that Israel has to return all of the land that it seized after the Assad regime fell?
During negotiations, yes, for sure. Israel must retreat from any point taken after December 8th. Syria has not provoked Israel since we arrived in Damascus.
Meanwhile, this past week, parliamentary elections were held in much of Syria. but only a limited number of people were eligible to vote. Under an interim constitution al-Shada signed in March, he's supposed to serve as president for 5 years, leading a transition to elected government.
What kind of government do you want to see here? Is it a democracy?
General elections will be held once the infrastructure is rebuilt and once the
is it a
population has
democracy?
IDs and proper documents.
So eventually you want Syria to be a place where every person gets one vote?
Absolutely.
If al-Shada can follow through on his promises, it would be a new day for Syria and for the Middle East.
There you go. He obviously doesn't have he doesn't have the best love of Russia because of what they've done to his country. He wants to be a good boy for Israel, and his goal, even though he said he did not affirm, yes, I want it to be a democracy, he does want everybody to have one vote, which is a democracy. In her stance, so he's checking all the
that's
points.
also a good boy line too.
It is. It's all a good boy line. This whole thing is we got to sell this terrorist guy to the West. I mean, we really don't. I mean, half the people think Syria is a brand of cereal. Or some type of blister you get on your foot. But they
what is that, a corn? No, it's a Syria.
Don't squeeze it. Yeah, but it's just funny because it's now we've whitewashed this guy. He's good to go. There's no more questions can be asked. There's a 60 Minutes piece. If you're ever questioning who this al-Shara guy is, just look at the 60 Minutes piece. We're good. And he can live happily if he continues to be a good boy. Which he will be.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've just about beat the Middle East to death.
Thought that was Israel's job.
Oh, I was waiting for it.
Yep, boom.
Why don't we... You know what? Let's talk about China.
Okay.
This is again from Vance on Fox. And this is about economics, the economics between America and China. And this is Vance talking about China, America's dependency on China.
Okay.
Let me switch gears to ask you about China because the markets reacted to China tightening the export control of rare earth minerals. And then President Trump responded with a new threat of a much higher tariff of 100%. What is the plan to take on communist China?
Communist China.
Well, I talked to the president about this yesterday and this morning, Maria. Look, he actually appreciates the friendship that he's developed with Xi. They have a good relationship, but I think all of us were really shocked by this action from the communist Chinese government. They basically, not just with the United States, but with the entire world, threatened to completely cut off trade for critical resources, critical minerals, things that all of us rely on. And what the United States has is we have a lot of leverage, Maria. And my hope, and I know the president's hope, is that we don't have to use that leverage. We actually want to rebuild more of our own industrial base, but we also think that we can have a positive relationship with the People's Republic of China, but not if the Chinese go down this pathway of cutting off the entire world from access to some of the goods that they produce. And Maria, this really highlights why the president, it was so important that he declared a national emergency and implemented these tariffs in the first place. The fact that the People's Republic of China, the fact that they have so much control over critical supply in the United States of America, that is the definition of a national emergency. The president has taken very decisive action to correct that problem over the last 8 months. But unless we have access to this tariff authority, it's going to be very hard to negotiate with China, and it's going to be very hard for us to reshore some of these critical supplies and goods that we absolutely need for our own economy.
Okay, so you get that talking point on Fox News a couple of days ago, and we're revisiting America's dependency on China. You know, this was a big deal back when tariffs were in the news, more prominently in the news. And on the heels of Vance talking about dependency on China and how bad that is, and of course, this is a negotiating tactic from the Trump administration. This is all about negotiating a trade deal with China. Well, we got to see that go into motion this very evening with some cooking oil chaos.
Oh, yeah. Market turmoil followed.
Well, the S&P 500 turned lower in the final hour of the trade after, you guessed it, a flare-up in the trade war with China. President Trump threatening to stop trade in cooking oil with China in a Truth Social post, a retaliatory move after Beijing is continuing to refuse to buy American soybeans. Joining us now is Balance of Power co-host Joe Matthews. So, Joe, it feels like a little bit we're back in an environment where there's so much headline ping pong when it comes to what is the
racist
state of play with trade negotiations with China.
Yeah, it's been kind of a day-to-day up and down here, with the president being accused of pulling another taco over the weekend following his very aggressive post on Truth Social on Friday, sent the markets in a tizzy, then the relief rally yesterday, and yes, today. I'm guessing you didn't have cooking oil on the menu for the program, but that's what the president's talking about on Truth Social, and this post helped to send the markets lower. With China not buying soybeans, we know that's been the case now for some times. He calls it an economically hostile act. He says China purposefully not buying the crop, and we're considering terminating business, he says on Truth Social, with China having to do with cooking oil and other elements of trade as retribution. He says we can easily make our own cooking oil, and it's unclear if he's talking about the new stuff that we buy at the store and cook in ourselves, or the massive imports of used cooking oil from China that goes back to, as a matter of fact, the Inflation Reduction Act, a Biden-era piece of legislation, now law, the IRA, that in fact created incentives for renewable fuels like, yes, used cooking oil. Now, guys, I don't know if this is going to be the path to a deal with China. The president is supposed to sit down with Xi Jinping in just a couple of weeks at the APEC summit in Korea. The administration, by way of the Treasury Secretary, is still saying that that meeting is on. And we heard from USTR Greer today saying they even have a time. We haven't seen that publicly, but they have a time to meet, and that has not changed yet.
Used cooking oil from China, huh?
Well, not used.
That's what he was saying, used.
I don't think he was saying used.
He said it 3 times. Used cooking oil from China. Here.
Reduction Act, a Biden-era piece of legislation, now law, the IRA, that in fact created incentives for renewable fuels like, yes, used cooking oil.
Used cooking oil.
Oh, okay. So this is a fuel thing, not a food thing.
Why?
But it could be a food thing as well. It could be both.
We were talking about China. Remember greasy floats? Remember when we were talking about that?
Yes, I remember greasy floats.
Where they were scooping oil out of the sewer and reusing it?
Yeah, I remember.
Was that China?
Yeah, it was China, yeah.
Well,
Sure
guess
was.
what? The used sewer oil is what they're sending to us. Are we cooking with this stuff?
I'm not surprised.
Or are we like lubing up machines with it?
Well, it sounds like we're doing both.
Lubing machines and...
Well, using, cooking oil, you can run engines on cooking oil. And most cooking oils were originally meant as machinery lubricants.
Man, I wonder how many of my Glocks are lubed with used Chinese cooking oil.
Probably more than you'd be comfortable with.
This is war. So what I was trying to connect is, why was used cooking oil so detrimental to? Is it more of just the trade war flaring up, and that's why the market reacted negatively?
Well, it's not only used cooking oil; it's also cooking oils generally, I think.
Okay. And so we're getting all of the bad oils, the rapeseed, the canola. All of that stuff is coming from China.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because it's cheap.
Yeah. So are used cars used to be cheap, but, it's because they were used. I wonder what other used stuff from China we're getting. I bet it says on the packaging, too. Make sure you save your oil so we can send it to the stupid Americans.
Yeah. There's probably, it's probably not just a street vendor reusing cooking oil thing. They probably industrialized it. They've got their sewers flowing to a central location where the cooking oil is segregated from the other greasy floats and repackaged as pure, bleached, and then repackaged as pure American canola oil and sent to every McDonald's that you've ever been to.
That's what I was thinking, too. Fast food places. And then we've talked about this, too, about how prices for, fast food, like Jack in the Box, you can't make a cheeseburger for $1. You got to decrease the quality of your inputs if you want to make a cheeseburger for $1.
Of course.
And that's what we're getting. Anyone who cooks with oil from China deserves it. Very good. Yeah, it's the unwitting people that are eating it, like the people that unwittingly ate horses when they went to Taco Bell.
Horses? You mean dogs from South Korea?
Oh, yeah, the South Korean dogs no longer do that. They're taking our freedom away. If I want to eat a dog, I'll eat a dog, damn it. Get over here, Ralph.
Yeah, so I think we'll see more. I think this is, now that the Israel thing is done, this is what Trump is going to focus on. It's what his efforts are going to be focused on. And who knows whether he'll get a deal or not. If he doesn't get a deal, then my puts on the S&P 500 are going to be glorious.
Going to be hitting hard?
Hitting hard.
Yeah. George Bush was in bed with Halliburton. Donald Trump's in bed with Crisco. Big cooking oil.
Yeah, I don't know where Crisco manufactures most of its oil.
Crisco. I've got this handy little computer in front of me here. Let's see.
Yeah, he's in bed with Crisco. They manufacture it in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Probably getting their inputs from used Chinese oil.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, for those that want to utilize used Chinese oil in a healthy way, apparently Crisco, the greasy kind of jello, waxy stuff, is great for survival candles. You can make a jar of Crisco. You can make a 20-hour candle with a jar of Crisco. And your house will smell
You sure can.
Like bad cooking. It's great.
I mean, you said something silly earlier. You said Donald Trump is in bed with Crisco. It's owned by Cargill.
Cargill seeds and fertilizers, right?
Yes. Well, Cargill, owner of most everything.
It's owned by B&G Foods. Apparently, according to the website.
It's owned by Cargill.
Is that the end entity, if you follow this list down far enough? Because I'm looking at the Wikipedia. It says, no. Yeah, owner, B&G Foods. Or previously Procter & Gamble. And previously J.M. Smucker Company. The peanut butter guy.
You know, Smucker's has actually started making some decent products, and you had to know that some of these companies would would start to specialize in seed oil-free foods. Smucker's has done a pretty good job with their jellies and jams, some of them anyway. They have a certain line, a product line that doesn't have any by name seed oils, but still has natural flavor and that kind of thing.
Sure. There's a good outreach to moms around the country by Smuckers. They've got a group. It's called Mother Smuckers. And sorry, I couldn't resist. What do we got next on this front?
Let's see. On this front, oh, well, why not just go on next door to Myanmar?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I heard something. I think you got a few. Myanmar?
Yeah, Myanmar.
Okay. Yeah, what do you got?
Burma, if you prefer. Let's do the setup. Let's get a little setup here.
Setup.
At least 24 people were killed and dozens more injured in a military airstrike on a village in northwestern Myanmar. They used a motorized paraglider. That's according to opposition sources. The attack taking place on Monday evening as people in a village in Saigang region were holding a candlelit vigil. Myanmar military has escalated its aerial bombing campaign against the opposition in recent months to try to strengthen the authority of the ruling junta before a planned election in December. We've had these images that have come in of the attack, and for context, thousands of people have died, millions have been displaced since 2021 when the army seized power, triggering a civil war with armed resistance groups and ethnic militias.
Wow, Asia's the new Middle East, apparently.
I don't know.
All these governments turning over. Was it Bangladesh where the lady had to literally flee to India? That was like the first millennial, or not millennial. The Gen Z protest was Bangladesh, right?
It was not Bangladesh.
Was it Malaysia? No, there was one. She was really close to like the Indian family, and she had to flee. She fled. It was a woman. Yeah, it was like a year ago in Bangladesh, right? Could have sworn.
Wasn't it Thailand?
There was something in Thailand, and that was Thailand versus Laos, Cambodia. There was something that happened in Bangladesh.
The Gen Z protest started in Nepal.
Yeah. The official, when people started noting that there was this Gen Z uprising, I could have sworn there was a Bangladesh coup that happened.
Yeah. I don't think so.
One of these nations. Anyway,
maybe you're seeing into the future. How about that?
No, I remember, and we talked about it here. It was either Bangladesh or Malaysia where something like this happened, and I think it was Bangladesh, where these kids started getting pissed off, and the leader of Bangladesh had to flee. No, not ringing a bell. So here it is.
I mean,
after Nepal and Bangladesh and Madagascar, President Andrei Renovy flees amid the Gen Z mass protests, which we'll talk about later when we're talking about Madagascar. But Bangladesh is in that list because Bangladesh happened first, before Nepal, like months before Nepal happened. But I remember it was the kids that were frustrated and fed up with the government. I could have sworn.
Well, in 2024, a student-led revolution toppled Bangladesh autocratic government.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And the woman leader had to flee to India.
Okay. Well, I mean, that was in 2024. That was last year.
Well, still.
Yeah, still happened, though. I guess you're right. Still happened.
Okay, so Myanmar and Bangladesh.
Well, Myanmar has been in the civil war. But we're getting reporting out of there because of an attack from the military forces on a Buddhist festival. So let's hear the report about that from the BBC.
Our Southeast Asia correspondent Jonathan Head is in the region and told us more about these paragliding strikes that are being used by the military.
It's relatively new. I mean, the capacity of the military to use air power, which has always been high. They've used conventional helicopters, gunships and aircraft to drop bombs now throughout the civil war, but that's been escalating, has been augmented now. They've got much more sophisticated drone technology. Remember, at the start of this conflict, the insurgents who had very little started improvising with drones and becoming quite effective at targeting military posts with those. They're now finding that the military can jam their drones very effectively, whereas the military's got access to a lot of more sophisticated Chinese drones. They've got Russian technology as well and are using those very effectively. The paragliders really only appeared this year, but they are a terrifying addition. They're quite slow moving, so they tend to use them in areas where there's very little capacity to shoot back. But because they fly quite low and quite slowly, they can be very accurate. Which of course tells you a lot about this particular attack. It was a festival in an opposition-controlled village near the Chindwin River in Lower Sagaing region. It's a very important Buddhist festival at this time of year, and they were holding a vigil in the evening to demand the release of political prisoners. And this paraglider, it might have been more than one. They certainly heard the engine. It's a very distinctive sound. Came over there, they had understood that was happening but got very little notice of it and were not unable to disperse people, and then bombs, and they say there were several, started dropping in this crowd of several hundred people, so it caused a lot of casualties.
Jeez. So it was an unmanned paraglider?
That's what I inferred.
Yeah. I guess somebody would have had to drop the bombs, so...
No, because we've got drones that are dropping bombs with automatic release mechanisms.
A paraglider, that's like the people that strap, it can be, I've seen them in cars, but for the largest example of paragliding is you see people have the fan backpacks and the parachute. You know?
Yeah, I mean, we just call that a chair fan down here.
Chair fan.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the wide open spaces of the Mississippi Delta, people do that pretty, I don't say regularly, but it's not uncommon to see somebody with a chair fan.
I always wanted to do that. Every time I see that, I go, I should do that. I want to look into that. Apparently, it's not that, it doesn't cost as much as you think it does.
No, you just got no protection.
Yeah. You're pretty much wide open to the elements, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, now this, I have this full report, this full segment on Myanmar because of this next clip. I find this interesting. This is the tie-in to China.
Then what is the role of China in the civil war at the moment?
Absolutely central. It has completely transformed the situation on the ground, giving the military an enormous leg up, both in its capacity to fight back. And the military has also been successful in getting far more recruits now to fill the holes in its ranks. But also the enormous diplomatic support China is giving for the military's controversial plan to hold an election in December, an election that is widely dismissed as a sham. I mean, it can only be held in small parts of the country which are controlled by the military. And of course, parties like Aung San Suu Kyi's NLD are not allowed to take part. But for all that, this is a plan that China is now backing in the hope that the military can accumulate some kind of legitimacy to build on. With China's full backing, it's likely the election will at least get recognised in this region, and I think that's given the military a lot more confidence.
Okay, so let me explain a little bit about this civil war that's been going on in Myanmar. China is more or less funding both sides of the conflict, and the reason they're doing that is to maintain leverage over both sides to say, don't touch our stuff. Because China has pipelines and other energy infrastructure and ports in Myanmar. So they have no problem supporting in various ways both sides of this civil war. I say both sides, there are various rebel groups that have sprung up, ethnic rebel groups in Myanmar. China's got no problem keeping everyone happy by giving them support, whether material or moral support, and letting them fight it out as long as no one touches their infrastructure. So, this being on China's doorstep, if you look at a map, you have the Sichuan region of China, which some people are familiar with. Under that, you have the Yunnan region of China, which is the border region to most of Southeast Asia, and Myanmar is on the western side of Yunnan, and then Laos is on the southern border with Yunnan, and Vietnam is on the southeast border of Yunnan. So you can imagine that Southeast Asian shape, and China being right there in the midst of all this, with the longest border being with Myanmar. And I find it interesting, one, that China doesn't care if they're fighting a civil war. They don't care how many people in Myanmar die or what becomes of the civil war. They just don't want their infrastructure to be fiddled with. If our infrastructure doesn't take any hits, we're happy. Do what you want to do. Here's some guns. Shoot one another. We don't care. The thing to look for in this scenario, because this is on China's back door and it's a volatile situation, I think if we start seeing reports of attacks on ports, attacks on pipelines, attacks on rail lines, that kind of thing, then there are some other actors getting involved. Because this civil war has been going on for a while with none of that. And now we're starting to get reports out of Myanmar about this, specifically around this attack on the festival. It's very similar to October 7th.
Yeah, with the paragliders. That's where my ears perked up.
And at the same time, we get this report about food aid from the U.S. from the AP.
A handful of edible plants and a small bowl of noodles is nearly all Ababa Mo can provide for her 17-year-old son. She fled Myanmar after soldiers attacked her village and now lives with her son in the Mela refugee camp just over the border in Thailand. More than 107,000 Myanmar refugees live in these camps along the Thai border. Inside Myanmar, millions have been displaced by years of conflict, including members of the Rohingya minority who are trapped in internment camps. For years, foreign aid from the United States helped keep people on both sides of the border alive. But earlier this year, President Donald Trump ordered steep cuts to the U.S. foreign aid program. In the Thai camps, that has meant 85% of residents stopped receiving food rations. So far, the family is able to get by thanks to donations from their Christian church. But others, like Mahmoud Karmar, are having to forage for their survival. Karmar has lost 35 pounds in the past few months, his frame now so slight that even his closest friends don't recognize him.
Yeah, I agree.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio recently reiterated the same response he gave to a House hearing in May after the U.S. gutted its foreign aid program.
Has anyone in the world died because of what Elon Musk did?
Listen,
yes or no, reclaiming my time. If you won't answer, that's a loud answer.
No one has died because of USAID.
The people who have.
But that is a lie, says Mohammed Tahir, who blames the funding cuts for the death of his 2-year-old son, who he says died from malnutrition after food rations to their Myanmar camp stopped in April. In a statement to the AP, the State Department said the U.S. continues to stand with the people of Myanmar. Late last month, it agreed to resume its funding for food rations in the Thai camps through the end of the year. But after that, refugees like Karmar will once again be on their own.
It could be solved if he became a Christian, apparently.
I don't know about completely solved, but yes, alleviated.
Yeah, I don't know. This whole, we need to continue to feed the world because we've always done so. I don't know. I don't know that argument.
I don't think this is what this is about.
Well, that's what they're trying to imply is Donald Trump came in and now people in Thailand are starving.
Myanmar.
Well, they're in Thailand that are starving.
They're in Thailand
cancer.
now, but
Yeah.
they come from Myanmar.
Yeah. Burmese people.
Burma. Burma is such a better name to me. Maybe it's not even close in Myanmar. I don't know. I like Burma better.
Me too. So what is this about, in your opinion?
I think this is about a country in turmoil on the doorstep of China. We're focused on China at the moment with a trade deal at very least. We consider them an adversary. We need to take every chance we can to buffet their military advances and advantages in the region. And Myanmar provides a good opportunity for that. And you could consider it a coincidence or not that we start getting these reports from the BBC about civilians being attacked by the people that China is giving the most weapons to. And the AP doing a report on funding to Myanmar being cut by the Trump administration. It's just a conglomeration of interesting points.
Yeah. I mean, at my core, I believe that almost all of these events are interrelated, one shape or everything is pretty much a giant risk board at this point.
Well, the thing about Myanmar is it's a really tough one for us to be in an outright position to fund some opposition to Chinese-backed groups because China's backing both sides. They've kind of checkmated us in Myanmar in that way. We can't fund the anti-Chinese group because there is no anti-Chinese group.
Right. We're actively involved in the area. Taiwan, Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, obviously South Korea and Japan as well. But trying to keep our best of containment in there by making countries our friend and not China's friend. And it's really kind of a bad deal for these Asian countries that are not friends with China because they're constantly getting threatened or surrounded by Chinese boats. So,
yeah. Well, how about we take a hop and a skip over to Madagascar? Or do you want to talk about Madagascar and the African region after a short break?
Let's see, what time is it? Yeah, we should thank some people, probably. Let's thank some people.
Millennial Media Offensive.
You are rolling live on the offensive right now. Every Tuesday night at 5:30 p.m., John and I hop on and we talk about the happenings around the globe. Sometimes it's more domestic. A lot of times it's more international. And sometimes when nothing happens, we just talk about interesting culture war stuff. There's a lot happening in the world right now, so we don't have to worry about the culture war flaming. But that being said, we also, you might have noticed, not inserted any ads. We're not trying to get you to buy State Farm insurance. We're not implying that we use Stamps.com because we don't. I haven't sent a letter in years.
Or gold. Sell your house. Buy gold.
Buy gold. And Momentum watches. No, instead, we rely solely on the people that are having the conversation along with us.
Rocket pocket underwear.
That's it. Don't let your willy hang free. Put it in a little container inside your underwear. The people that are having this conversation along with us in the chat room and sending us emails, those are the people that indeed also fund the show. They fund it with information. They fund it with fun comedic feedback, clips, titles, artwork, end of show songs, and fiat currency donations, all many ways that you can contribute. That being said, we always like to start off by thanking the artist from the last episode. And at this point, is it any surprise at all the artist from the last episode was Woof? And episode 189 of MMO was called Pantsuit Stasi. And he created the Macron clone art and gave it a nice 1970s noir spy-esque vibe, I think. I like it a lot.
Yeah, my only gripe with it was, and this comes along with it being AI, but, you know, you can tell that the Macrons are not exactly in the tubes. There are no legs to the Macrons, and the font didn't pop the way some other pieces of his have. Now, the other two pieces that he gave us were a girl in the, what would you say, the Slavic windsuit.
Oh yeah, she's it was in reference to the AI that was it Albania? The AI politician that Albania had instated under the direction of Tony Blair, we assume. And when you know, what does she look like? I think it was thrown out there that she would be wearing a white Adidas tracksuit. So we got the Adidas tracksuit in there from last week, that art.
And then we got a Canadian maple leaf whiskey bottle with some whales in it. As a reference to your story about the whales.
The captive whales that Canada, that marine land might have to kill because the Canadian government outlawed their business model, and they said we can no longer fund these 30 beluga whales to stay alive, so we have to execute them, as you do. Whale murderers. That's all Canada is. That's all whenever I hear somebody's a Canadian, all I can think of is whale murderers. Too busy killing whales to fight your forest fires, huh? I'm just kidding. We love our...
Yes, but those were the pieces of art we received, and the Macron clone piece 1. Yeah, it was much appreciated. Thank you very much for the art, and we're needing art for tonight. So if you out there listening live have an idea for a piece of art, just send it to us. Yep. It's not that difficult to make art, especially with the advent of artificial intelligence. So give it a shot, will you?
And Wolf actually had to go square dancing with his lady tonight, so he might be out of the running.
You've got a chance.
You've got a chance. Yeah, perfect. So thank you very much. Up next, we had a couple of donations that rolled through. A little bit of a light week, but, you know, I feel like our donations hinge on what happens in the news. So not a lot happened. Not a lot of exciting stuff has happened over the past week, and the donations reflect that. But we did receive some nonetheless, and so we'll read them here. Starting off at the top of the list came Rocket Boy, a relatively new name. We've seen once before, through PayPal, and he sent in $12.21, and he says, "Good show. Keep Jesus in your heart and love your enemies." Matthew 5:43-24, Rocket Boy. That's true. I say keep Jesus in your heart and one in the chamber. You should love your enemies, but, you know, they're your enemies for a reason. And you suspect they might attack you, so be prepared. Love them, but also be prepared to end them. Of course, not the most Christian advice, but I'm a flawed sinner. Thank you, Rocket Boy. Susan A. came in through Cash App with $5.55, and she says, "I look forward to every Tuesday." OTO.
On the offensive.
I do as well. Thank you very much, Susan A. The Nail Lord of Gaylord comes in through Venmo with $5, and he says, "Nlog here, furlough donation number 2. In about 15 days is when we will see Fed employees freaking out. Most of my coworkers spend it all and save nothing." Nail Lord, thank you, sir. Yeah, it's always good to keep some dry powder on hand. We appreciate the dono. Then we got a couple of Praetors that have come in the door. Praetor Weirdo of the Not So Flatlands came in through Cash App with $4.44, and he says, "OTO
on the offensive."
Thank you for your courage, and we say Thank you, sir, for your praetorship and your courage and your support of the offensive. And finally, Praetor Pareka of the Peoria Diocese, a.k.a. Empress Emily M., comes in through PayPal with $3.33, and she says, go to Mass and pray the rosary. That is her going full Catholic, right? She used to say, go to church, read your Bible. Now she says, go to Mass, pray your rosary. That's
very good. Thank you all very much.
I'll give her one of these.
Go to church and read your Bible.
There you are.
We also had some people that sent Bitcoin donations through modern podcast apps. All of these are from Fountain. You can find Fountain on any app store. Mug Daddy comes in and is the Bag Daddy. Dan?
Yes, sir. Caught me off guard with that one.
Bug Daddy.
Bag Daddy.
Yes, Mug Daddy comes in with 10,000 Satoshis and says, stay offensive, or whatever the tagline is. Also, shout out to Gigawatt Coffee. I roast some of my own coffee, but order Gigawatt monthly. Best around. Well, thank you very much, Mug Daddy. Yeah, the tagline is on the offensive. Stay on the offensive.
Remain on the offensive.
We try not to be offensive, but I can't always keep a grip on Dan.
I've been known to be offensive from time to time. Thank you very much, sir. I hope you enjoy your Gigawatt monthly.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Ed comes in and says, someone please, with 5,000 Satoshis, by the way, and says, someone please tell Lavish and Booberry that I miss them like the night misses darkness in the big cities. Love and respect for all, Mr. Ed. Then Lavish comes in with 3,333 Satoshis and says, good evening, gentlemen. Much love to the show. Please tell Mr. Ed that we miss him and the big city is being rebuilt and will cast darkness once more after New Year. God bless. From Lavish.
Wagwan, God bless you, Lavish.
Trail Chicken comes in with 3,333 Satoshis and says, OTO, sign up for the newsletter. Yes, thank you very much, Trail Chicken.
Yeah, those newsletters have been great lately. No, nothing.
I'm doing my best, Dan.
I know. I'm just playing with you.
You can sign up for the newsletter, the surprise newsletter.
That's right. You never know when you're going to get it.
MMO.show/newsletter. When you do get it, they're good.
Yeah, it's like you're an ugly guy that goes out to a bar trying to hook up with a chick all the time. And, it rarely happens, but when it happens, it's magical. Is that a good analogy? Is that offensive?
Well, it sounds like you're talking from experience.
I have never been a floozy. Been with a floozy.
Eric Pepe is currently, at the moment, streaming value for every minute that we do a show. What if we just did 24/7 radio just to see how long Eric Pepe would stream value?
He'd be poor. He'd be a poor guy.
We wouldn't do that to you, Eric Pepe. We appreciate seeing that you're streaming value as we do the show nearly every week. And we want to thank everyone who came in with a donation or sent information. I got a lot of stuff through email this week, content that I was not able to use, and I want to mention one. I just couldn't go through all of the details, and there are links, there are videos, and this is the kind of thing that really keeps us going. This is from Trash Man, and it's what you could use to build an entire segment on synthetic kratom.
Oh, yeah. I watched a few of those. I had no idea. 7-0. 7-H-O?
Yeah, there's a big push in Mississippi, actually, to ban kratom generally. And it's because of this synthetic kratom, not kratom itself, but this imposter kratom. is actually, causing some trouble, as is implied by the material from Trash Man.
Synthetic kratom. Kratom. I wonder if there's any used Chinese cooking oil in it.
Bet you there's some used Chinese something in it.
Yeah.
Do you remember Spice from back in the day? You could get Spice at the gas stations.
Yeah, wasn't it it's called K2 or something?
I don't know.
Salvia.
I don't think it was. I don't think it was actually salvia.
I thought salvia, Spice, and K2 were all the same thing, more or less. And people would smoke it, and then they would act like crackheads. And it was sold as it was marketed as synthetic weed.
Yeah, I don't know what it was marketed as. I just remember it being the thing that certain groups in high school would go to the gas station and get, and then, go, I don't know, sit in their dark corner.
And then after that, it was bath salts.
See, I feel like bath salts were around maybe once I had gotten into college, and you started seeing the stories out of Florida about bath salts.
The zombies.
That and what was it? Flocka?
I don't know about Flocka.
Flocka was the one that you would hear about people doing, and it was like a super bath salt, and they would actually, the story goes, you actually turn into a zombie where your skin starts to crack and peel off because of the effects of the Flocka.
Oh, isn't that popular in South America or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen it. I think I saw a Vice documentary on it. Of course. that's who makes those documentaries. Yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah, the 7-0 does not sound like a good product that you should buy.
No.
But yeah, you can get a lot of stuff at gas stations. If you ever look behind the counter and see what they got going on outside of the traditional tobacco, it's eye-opening. Who buys this stuff? Evidently, people. People do.
People.
Yeah.
People. Okay, well, what do you say we keep this train rolling?
Let's keep her on chugging along.
Get it on.
But before you do, stop tape for just a second.
Okay.
Please. I'll be right back.
Since it's a digital recorder, I didn't actually stop the tape. I am taping it. I'm just going to cut it out later. I am recording it to a digital file. To a digital file is where I record all of the audio for MMO. I've long been doing this. I have quite a few large terabyte hard drives where I pretty much store everything, all the file folders and whatnot, and it's a good time. It is an interesting time to say, you see a girl at an airport dancing in front of her camera. What is she doing? She's making content. And I hate that terminology, making content. And I'm doing a podcast here. Technically it is content, but, I don't like the verbiage behind it. So I always say I'm recording a show. I'm putting out a show. It feels more like I'm broadcasting my voice to the internet. And there's some crazy guy that's uploading everything that we upload to archive.org. So if you type in MMO number whatever, you'll find it on archive.org. Somebody is archiving our podcast, so it will live forever or until the electromagnetical pulse EMP goes off and destroys everything. Then we're done. Then we're done because this is not on a tape. This is all electronic. So, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? If the EMP goes off, I think there's going to be larger concerns in your life and in my life than, oh no, the entire archive of MMO has just vanished. I think it'll be more like, oh no, people are trying to break into my house and steal my last can of beans. I wish I would have listened to my friend Dan and put together a cheap gun, at least, so I could protect my family and my food stores from the marauders. But, you know, it's never too late. It's never too late until it's too late. And that, the it's never too late, I think, is a phrase that has spurred nothing but procrastination in society. When it's never too late to be a good person means, well, I can be an asshole today and be a good person tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. You're just going to be an asshole forever and ever. It's the same thing with preparedness. You know, I'll buy a gun when things get bad. Well, guess what? I thought that when it was going to snow and ice in St. Louis, I would buy a bag of salt on that day. Evidently, there was about 50,000 other people in the city that had that same thought. I couldn't get a bag of ice. A bag of ice melt, I should say. I couldn't get anywhere. I had to beg and plead hardware stores to give me some tips as to where I could find it. I drove 20 minutes outside of St. Louis, and I went to an AutoZone, and they were flushed with ice melt. But it was the first time in my life where I was vastly unprepared for a situation that I could have been prepared for if I had just opened up a weather app or looked at a paper. So, it's never too late. While true, for some cases, sometimes it is too late. Sometimes it's way too late. And when it comes to gun ownership in America, it's way too late. Get a gun. And have an extra couple of bags of ice melt around. It is no fun going to Menards and seeing full-grown men buying water softener ice cubes, you know, the salt cubes that for water, and saying, I'm going to crush this up with a hammer and sprinkle it on my driveway. That's a sad day. That's a sad day in America. That's not what that's for, sir. And no, it does not have the same effects and will not work. But people learn.
Did you tell them that at the time?
I didn't. I was looking at a guy, and he kept saying, it's the same thing. And, you know, I kind of wanted to drive past a house where somebody had just dumped this bag of water softener ice tabs. You know, they're rocks. They're like an inch by an inch rock of salt. So no, I didn't tell him at the time. But I'm glad you're back.
Yes, I'm back.
So where do we kick this off?
Oh, we're coming out of the break, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, we're coming out of the break.
Let's go to Madagascar.
Let's do it. Let's go to Madagascar. I have clips, but I want to hear yours. Mine are from the DW.
Okay.
I presume yours are as well.
They might be from the DW. I can't remember.
Well, let's do yours, and if it's a satisfactory segment, we'll move on.
Yeah, mine is from the DW. Here we go.
To Madagascar now, where there are questions over the whereabouts of embattled President Andry Rajoelina. President Rajoelina has made an address to the nation in the last hour. According to Reuters news agency, the president said he had to move to a secure location to protect his life. Over the weekend, Rajoelina said there was a coup underway after losing the army's support. An elite military unit is backing the so-called Gen Z protesters. And on Monday, there were celebrations in the capital, Antananarivo. The demonstrators demanded for the president to step down following weeks of unrest. Let's bring in Raisa Yusuf, a journalist in Lagos, Nigeria. She was in Madagascar recently reporting on the protests. What do you know about the president's whereabouts?
So he's still in an undisclosed location. So in his address, he said that he had to flee in a secure location because his life was threatened. Many people, I think, were expecting him today to announce that he was going to step down, but that is not what happened. He said that he's still continuing his efforts to find solutions to the problems in Madagascar. He said he was trying his best, that people needed to trust him. What we know from RFI is that the president left the country yesterday. He took a helicopter to Sainte-Marie in northern Madagascar, and then he took a French military plane to go to La Réunion Island and then left for an undisclosed location. So French President Emmanuel Macron was asked to comment about this, and he refused. And he just said that he insisted that Madagascar needed to respect constitutional order.
Because their president is in France. So this guy...
It's pretty obvious that he's in France.
Okay. He got on a French military plane, and we don't know where he went. I have a guess. Exactly, yeah. He probably went to Russia. That's where I'd imagine. But so this guy actually owed his power. So Madagascar, obviously an old French colony, and that's why France is so heavily present in this clip. But this fella indeed actually got elected through, according to the news, Russian troll farms and bots and cash for candidates. It was a big story in 2022 when he rose to power, or in 2019 when he rose to power. And during the UN vote, his foreign minister actually voted to condemn Russia's annexation of Ukraine. And this president fired that foreign minister and said, that's not our stance as his country. So he was Eastern aligned a little bit. This guy was. He was a big fan of Russia's Belt and Road Initiative, believing that it would bolster...
Russia's Belt and Road?
China's Belt and Road Initiative, believing it would bolster Madagascar's economy. So he's kind of played between both sides there, but was leaning more eastwardly. And now he's fled and no longer the president, because a military junta is about to take place.
No, he is the president still, unless he's been formally impeached.
Well, yes, but there's talks of a military junta that's going to kick off here any day.
Okay, do you have more clips?
That's it. That's the one I brought. I see you have 5 of them.
Yes, I do. Well, I've got one called He's Not Resigning. So let's do that one.
Okay.
Let's bring in Raisa Yusuf, a journalist in Lagos, Nigeria. She was in Madagascar recently reporting on the protests. What do you know about the president's whereabouts?
So he's still in an undisclosed location. So in his address, he said that he had to flee in a secure location because his life was threatened. Many people, I think, were expecting him today to announce that he was going to step.
I just played this.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Okay, well, but you were talking about the military junta. You're probably just talking about what the next clip says, role of military. So why don't we just skip to the last clip and do killed? See what that one's about.
Okay.
All right. And meanwhile, the UN estimates that 22 people were killed during the protests. Do you expect their deaths to be independently investigated?
I thought that question was interesting.
It is hard to say at the moment. A few days ago, President Rajoel had said that he did not agree with that report from the UN. According to him, it was 12 people dead, and according to him, it was mostly people looting. So that's not what the UN was saying. And now that we are still in the process of seeing he's going to be impeached or step down, it is hard to say right now if there is going to be an independent investigation regarding this death.
That was Raisa Yusuf, journalist in Lagos, Nigeria, on the situation in Madagascar. Thank you so much for all of that, Raisa.
So what did you think was interesting about the question of it being investigated?
Independently investigated.
Yeah.
Like, is a third party going to oversee it and potentially charge his government with war crimes? I don't know. I think we wanted this guy out, and now he's out. And that's what I think.
Well, interesting that you think we had something to do with Madagascar. I think the thing to do next is go to the Gen Z folder. Are you familiar with the common thread between all of these Gen Z protests, the One Piece flag?
No.
You're not?
Uh-uh.
So there's an anime, a Japanese anime called One Piece. and it's about a pirate, and the pirate has this cartoonish Jolly Roger flag.
Yeah, I have seen this in recent videos.
Okay. I have a clip from War Fronts about the origin of the one-piece flag in these protests.
The Straw Hats flag has appeared sporadically in protests around the world, but its first widespread use was in Indonesia. Surprisingly, it didn't begin with students storming parliament or activists calling for democracy. It began with truck drivers. Every year, in the lead up to Indonesia's Independence Day on August the 17th, truck drivers fly the country's flag as a routine display of patriotism, the red and white waving proudly as they traverse the nation. But this year, something changed. Truck drivers around the country began flying the one-piece flag, either in place of or alongside the Indonesian flag, as a protest against the increasingly difficult economic conditions. Rahmat, a local truck driver, told the weekly Indonesian outlet Tempo that he and his colleagues had adopted the flag as a peaceful way to demonstrate. Quoting him here, "This is purely an expression of aspiration. The hope is that the government not only listens, but also provides solutions. Don't let the lower-income population continue to be oppressed." The truckers weren't just protesting the country's declining economy. They were also mad at a new ODOL policy introduced by the government. ODOL, meaning over-dimension overloading, refers to vehicles that have been modified to carry a load heavier than what they were initially meant to. According to the Indonesian government, ODOL increases the risk of accidents and the amount that the state spends on road repairs. The Indonesian Ministry of Public Works and People's Housing estimates that the state has spent more than 43 trillion Indonesian rupees repairing roads damaged by ODOL trucks. The drivers, on the other hand, often feel they have no choice but to exceed legal weight limits because cargo owners have come to expect it as a standard service. Gemilang Taragan, chairman of the Indonesian Trucking Entrepreneurs Association, told local outlet Berat Satu, and we'll quote him here, "If we tell clients our truck can only carry 10 tons, we get no jobs because others can haul 25 tons and beat us." End quote. The flag quickly spread among Indonesia's trucking community, as chronicled by the Instagram account HKPro78. And soon enough, the flag was all over the country, not just on trucks. Artists like Imas Muhammad painted the straw hat skull in graffiti across the walls of cities. Motorbikes drove past with flags tied to their rear racks, and boats along Indonesia's coasts began raising it on their masts, mirroring the straw hats.
So it became effectively a universal symbol of struggle against the man.
Yes, and in the anime, the main character who flies this flag sails from island to island to island, freeing characters and populations from tyrannical, overbearing authority figures. So there's some poetic justice in this, that it became the symbol in this country, but has then spread to others and become the symbol there as well. But I thought it was really interesting and, well, extremely interesting that this was truckers. You know, we were a big fan of what was going on in Canada with the truckers.
Yeah, against the government.
And here, this is truckers starting this and having a hand in something that appears to be spreading globally. And it just makes me even more dead set in my long-term goal for this podcast of getting guerrilla marketing at truck stops about the podcast. Then, as more truckers start listening because they're driving all the time, getting them set up with the mesh radios. And as they go around the country, they have their mesh radios on and they're basically torrenting our episodes to people completely offline. It's a very long-term plan because you have to get the data transfer through the mesh network going. But I think it's possible. I think we could be the first completely off-the-grid podcast.
It's possible. It is definitely it's, data transfer over radio is something. You can send photos over radio. You can send images over radio. You should be able to send audio over radio. Which, as I'm saying, that is stupid because that was one of the initial uses of radio was broadcast radio, which is literally what we're doing, but now on the internet. I see this flag as easily being used. So, the truckers started using it as almost against government regulation, right? The Gen Zs used it.
The ODOL regulation.
Right. The kids are using it as just a general frustration with the government. I'd be willing to bet that this weekend, October 18th, there are No Kings protests across the U.S. There's going to be a few of these flags flying in the Antifa-leaning left kind of group. This flag is going to become sort of a symbol of that on the left, I'd imagine.
I could see that. I think that's a good prediction. I think it's going to be a shame when that happens because that'll be the co-opting of a symbol for liberation by groups that only want domination.
Yeah. I think any sort of, and that's what I noticed when I hopped on that call, when I hopped on that No Kings, and it wasn't a call, but it was like a recorded of a meeting when it was their kickoff call. It was just kind of this general resistance. And so anything that represents resistance in whatsoever, like the word resist is now, there's a Statue of Liberty. Some lady liberal in my neighborhood has a sign, and it's a Statue of Liberty holding a sign that says resist, right? So it's just like that word alone has now taken on the connotation of resist Donald Trump. And so any sort of symbol...
Which is really funny. It's really funny that she's got a Statue of Liberty holding a sign that says resist, because at its core, the Statue of Liberty and the verbiage associated with it is basically about fleeing, not resisting.
Right. It would be funny if somebody added resist the hordes of immigrants coming over on the boats, but, just any basic symbol that represents resistance now is like it gets co-opted by the left and says, well, this is we stand with these kids, and now it's part of our resistance as well. It's just the melding of all these different identitarian groups together around a symbol. And so I don't think it'll be the main symbol of resistance, but it will be a symbol that will be associated with resistance in the United States.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's not really a hard call at all. It's just
seeing
how these idiots have been acting and predicting.
It's just confirmation that you're paying attention.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I think in that vein, I'm going to make I've been sort of tracking what's happening in Nigeria. I mentioned the murmurings of Christian genocide in Nigeria last week, and I got some good confirmation this week for us. This is from Al Jazeera, and I've got a Christian genocide setup from Nigeria.
Very well.
And that is where we start. Nigeria, which has rejected claims from prominent US voices of a religious war between Muslims and Christians, which they say is fueling an alleged Christian genocide that authorities have ignored or even facilitated. Republican Senator Ted Cruz is amongst the loudest of the voices from the US's Christian political right, alleging this. Cruz has even introduced a bill aimed at targeting Nigerian officials who are believed to facilitate violence against Christians and also to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern. Now, the administration of President Bola Tinubu, who took office 2 years ago, says that the allegations are a gross mischaracterization amidst a complex landscape of security challenges that no one is denying.
Stories get legs. Did we ever talk about the Vexus or whatever the new formed group is that he tweeted out about it last week?
The Sahelians?
No. Who's the group that bombed the orphans in Haiti?
Barbecue?
Blackwater.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. It's a weird name, but it's Blackwater guy.
Yeah. So he tweeted out about it. It was, and I appreciate you not making fun of me for this because I also don't like it. But when the Pope was blessing the ice cube, he's like, I got a better.
I mean, it was so funny, but also just the kind of thing that you don't even touch because
it was sad. It was sad.
It's sad.
I thought you were different, brother. I thought you were. But so he tweets out the Eric guy. Eric, what's his name? Can you remember?
Eric Prince.
Eric Prince tweets at the Pope, I've got a better idea. How about you help me defend Christians in Nigeria? And Eric Prince, the guy who's leading these military groups now and was talking about how Africa's a hotbed for his business, pretty much, military contracting, he was tweeting at the Pope about this story. And it was like the day after we had brought it up to say, hey.
Vectus Global.
Vectus Global.
Vectus Global.
So I thought that was funny. I don't think we ever came back and said, we predicted that, but we definitely predicted that.
Yeah, so this Nigeria thing is getting legs, as you said. And I've got a government advisor from Nigeria who's going to come on Al Jazeera and deny this.
Alrighty.
So to break all this down, I'm now joined by Daniel Bwala, who is the special advisor to President Tinubu. Daniel, thanks so much for coming in to unpick this. Now, so we're seeing Ted Cruz and those who support him saying that things like, 50,000 Christians have been killed in Nigeria with impunity since 2009, thousands of schools and churches torched. Where is all of this coming from, do you think?
We strongly object to the notion that there is a systematic genocide in Nigeria. We admit of the fact that there is insecurity in the country, which we've been dealing with. Actually, since the past 2 years when the president came on board, we have seen massive improvement in the fight against insecurity. Because before he became president, we used to have prison breaks. There was insecurity right in the city of Abuja, the seat of power. And we have multiplied insecurity situation in every part of the country. But we have now seen sustained insurgents and Boko Haram people, or bandits as the case may be. When they inflict this crime and heinous, acts of crime, they do not make distinction between the Christians or Muslims. The idea behind the genocidal, concept is a cooked up narrative by the West because they see that we are making gains with the economy.
Party man. I got to defend my boy. It's pretty much J.D. Vance on Maria Bartoloma. Same objectives there.
Yeah, cooked up narrative.
I like that. Yeah, he's not wrong though.
Well, okay. So she's going to press him on this and say, well, if this is a cooked up narrative, who stands to gain?
We already identified him, Eric Prince.
Some of us have the opinion. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, it's cooked up. Who stands to gain from alleging that thousands of people who actually have been killed have been killed as part of a genocide? Why bother?
So first of all of them, from Ted Cruz to Patrick David to Senator Ted Budd, also all these Republican congressmen, almost all of them base their argument on a report by Inter-Society Organization. That Inter-Society Organization is an organization that is funded by foreign interests, foreign groups. And if you look at this data based on multiple sources, but if you go through the report, you see contradiction. The author of the report is someone who, in all of the analysis of the report, never mentioned for 1 second the insecurity situation in the Southeast. In fact, even the work of the Nigerian military forces in the pretext
by an NGO.
Yeah.
And he's going to take it one step.
Is even if who is being targeted by Boko Haram, what is that they feel after?
We used to have prison breaks. We no longer have prison breaks. Before 2023, we had some of the local government in Nigeria taken over by the insurgents.